Rev up your engines!
Now, if you've been following it, they're trying to make those little electric trucks called the Slate trucks, right? One thing you might not realize, this is going to be one tiny truck. Look at the size of it. This thing is like a micro truck. Now, electric trucks, I don't know, battery electric trucks, they've all failed so far. So instead of making a giant one, they made a tiny one. Now, it's shorter than a Honda Civic. It doesn't have that much range. They say this cheap one is going to have 150 miles of range. And we all know what that means. It's all a lie. Because normally, you only charge from 10% to 80%. Okay, so you've lost 30% of that. So, you're basically talking about maybe 100 miles of range, right? And that's what they say. It's always less, okay? Even though, it's under $20,000, they do it by putting a smaller battery, less range. What's the point of making something like this? It's a toy. If it's got like 100 miles of real-world range, why would anybody want to spend even $20,000 for it? Yeah, and of course, they're trying to compete with the Ford Maverick, right? The thing about the Ford Maverick is that baby's four-door, and it's a lot larger than this Slate thing, right? But it's four-door, families can fit in it and stuff. This is a tiny two-door pickup truck. It's going to have a very limited market that actually is going to buy it, right? Most truck people don't like electric battery trucks. Most people want to be able to fit a few people in the truck. This only takes two. That's one of the biggest things about the Ford Maverick pickup truck. They were smart. They made them all four doors, and you can fit a lot of people in them. And they made them front wheel or all-wheel drive. They drive more like a car. This thing is a tiny little pickup truck. It will probably ride like crap, because if it's small like that, small wheelbase, because it is smaller than a Honda Civic, it's going to ride bumpy. I don't know. They came up with this idea. Sounds like they didn't think the thing through. Right? You make it too small, it can go 100 miles or so, and the cheap version, of course, they're going to put bigger batteries, bigger motors in, yeah, but then it's not going to be under $20,000. All these car companies think, we'll sucker them in with the little one, and we'll sell them the bigger one. Hey, big electric trucks don't sell. Anyway, as far as I'm concerned, this is a very limited idea, this Slate. Now, they're not out yet, right? They only have prototypes and stuff, but probably went a bit too small, a bit too crappy. That who's going to want it? This thing's the size of a Honda Civic. It's smaller than a modern Honda Civic. That's just too tiny for a truck. And those micro trucks they have in Asia, fine. You know, they're used to having those tiny things. In the American market, not so much. People get in a tiny one, they won't feel safe driving down the highway. Look at all the small cars that failed. You know, smart cars, all these micro cars. And a micro truck, I think it's a stupid idea, especially an electric one. Now everybody's worried about shortages in the United States because of the tariff war. Well, anybody that's got something besides rocks for brains is going to realize this stuff would come in stages. Now they're saying they're stopping stuff until July. Who knows what's actually going to happen? So don't go out and start buying, 85,000 gallons of avocado oil because you think a lot of the avocado stuff comes from Mexico, right? Think, oh, well, they're going to have a big tariff. I'm going to buy all this avocado oil now, right? It's good for a certain period of time, right? People, they react. They overreact to this stuff. It always reminds me when I lived in Houston and a hurricane's coming. They'd buy bottled water and all this stuff, and I'm like, what? And toilet paper. It's like, really, you don't need to hoard this stuff. This one sheep that follows the other sheep, bah, bah, bah. Then they all are like lemmings, go over the cliff. Oh, look, he went over the cliff, I'm coming too. People get too carried away with this stuff. They react. They overreact to all this stuff. And believe me, if somebody wants something, someone will figure out a way of getting it in, right? It's not like there's not going to be any more. I'll give you a perfect example. Lithium and rare earth elements. Well, the Chinese they only control a lot of it because they do it cheaply, and the companies here in the United States want to buy it the cheapest they can, so they buy it from China. Australia has a lot of lithium and stuff, too. Hey, they can pick up the slack. Look what happened when Russia invaded the Ukraine. Hey, oil and gas in the United States was selling like hotcakes in Europe. We're not going to buy that Russian stuff, so they bought our stuff. There's always a way in these capitalist economy. If there's a hole somewhere, somebody's come to fill it to make some money. So don't get carried away with, I got to go buy a car now before the prices go up. A lot of this stuff is total nonsense. and people just get carried away. The media blows it out of proportion, and then people go out and start randomly massive buying things that they really don't need to buy. Well, things are so bad at Nissan, and Nissan is now suing one of its own dealership for $3.4 million because they didn't pay for the vehicles that they delivered to the dealership. This is a New Jersey Infiniti, of course, are the fancy Nissan's dealership, who Nissan says owes them all that money because they didn't pay for the cars they delivered them. Now, of course, Jersey, you kind of expect this kind of stuff, right? People are always doing sleazy deals in New Jersey. The lawsuit says that Infiniti of Englewood failed to pay Nissan over $3.4 million for 64 vehicles they delivered last fall. They say that the dealership failed to use the sales proceeds to repay Nissan. They got the cars, they sold them, but then now, it's not like these are 64 vehicles that are sitting on the lot. They've sold 61 out of those 64 vehicles. They decided not to pay Nissan. Here's what the suit says. In the 3 months preceding the deliveries, Englewood and Nissan represented Nissan in writing it was financially sound and adequately capitalized. But they didn't pay. Well, what do you expect? It's Jersey. People are always pulling fast deals, right? God just thought, hey, what the heck? Why should I pay them? What are they going to do? They're in Japan. I'm here in Jersey, right? Come and get me. You can't believe half of the stuff that goes on these days. It's kind of unbelievable. It's like Nissan's in bad enough trouble that the dealerships now are not paying them, but selling the cars they gave them. Hopefully Nissan wised up and didn't send them any more cars yet. Well, more tariff transportation moves. China sent Boeing planes back to the U.S. over tariffs. At least 2 of them they have sent back. We don't want them. Take them back. I don't like them. In their latest retaliation, China sent back some Boeing planes that they were supposed to buy. I wonder who pays for the transportation costs. Now, Boeing's chief executive said 50 more planes were supposed to go to China this year, but now they said they're not going to take delivery of them. So now they got to figure out who they're going to build these planes for, right? Now, realize Boeing is America's largest exporter, and 70% of its commercial aircraft sales are outside the United States, right? And of course, the CEO of Boeing said, quote, "We're not going to continue to build aircraft for customers who won't take them." Are the Chinese burning their bridges? They make their own planes, but they don't have that many of them out there. They don't have much of a track record, right? And from my experience of Chinese-built transportation devices, let's just say I'm not climbing in one of their airplanes anytime soon. Now, Boeing's in trouble to begin with because they reported smaller losses in the first quarter of this year. But it's still losses. They're losing, but they're losing less. So it's not exactly a great time for Boeing. All those problems they had with the Starliner. Luckily, they must have some insider dudes because they got that big defense contract for building stuff for the Air Force, right? After they screw up everything, they still get the big government contract. So there's got to be some collusion going on there in Washington, right? Well, in this case, politics has done them a downer by starting all this tariff stuff, and now the Chinese are saying, we don't want your planes anymore. Here's one I can't help but laugh at. These guys bought a Tesla because they wanted to put it through their 1-year program to see what happens. Well, they didn't have it all that long, and it was hit by a compact vehicle. Hit by a compact, not anything big. And that was it. It was $58,000. And look at the pictures. It doesn't look that damaged, right? If that had been like a Toyota Corolla, it might have been $3,000, $4,000 of damage, right? So this thing that these Cybertrucks, massive beasts, they're not beasts. They're rolling piles of crap. On December 11, 2024, the Cybertruck was parked inside a restaurant in Hollywood. Where else, right? A compact sedan blew through the intersection, crashed into it. Now, this is a 6,600-pound truck. You think it could have taken more than that. And you can see the wheel's broken, and one of the motors is broken, the panel's bashed in. But $58,000 to fix it, it's like highway robbery. It took them months to find anybody who would even give them an estimate of it. Many people wouldn't even touch it in body shops. I don't blame them messing around with that electronic nonsense, right? So finally, 2 months after the accident, they got a visual estimate. Then they said, well, we got to tear it down. So they charged them $1,128 just to give them an estimate. They used to give estimates free, right? And then they said it's going to be $57,879 to fix it, and so they totaled it. And here's the thing. It didn't even damage the battery, which is a ton of money, right? All that money to fix this stupid thing because, of course, They don't make them to be fixed. The parts are super expensive. Hardly anybody wants to work on them. And this is why. You fools that go out and buy these things, if you think your insurance rates are bad now, wait till the insurance companies find out from them getting wrecked and smashed up how much it costs to fix them. Your premiums are going to go higher and higher and higher, because even though it's the cyber beast, it's not much of a beast when a compact car hits this thing and totals it. This kind of shows you it is not a very well-built vehicle. If that had been like F-150 Ford, it would have pushed it. Maybe you'd have to change the rear axle and do some body work. But it sure as heck wasn't going to be $40,000 of work from getting hit by a compact car. So, I mean, the whole thing about that Cybertruck, it's failed in about every possible way it could possibly fail. And now they're finding out, gee, they're not very strong either. A compact car hits and you gotta laugh at it. You gotta laugh at these fools you see driving those. They bought them because, look at me, I'm in a Cybertruck. Now they're finding out, yeah, look at him, he's in a Cybertruck. What an idiot. Well, there's a new report out that shows the eye-popping cost of Amazon's new delivery vans. They're those electric vans, right? Rivian, Amazon invested a bunch of money in it. Now they're selling them to the public, too. The early ones are only sold to Amazon. Well, let's face the facts. Amazon has an awful lot of money. We all buy stuff from them all the time. They're making a fortune, right? Last year alone, Amazon spent over $1 billion buying these. They are, of course, the last mileage delivery. These aren't long distance ones. They're to deliver to your house and stuff. This is 20,000 of them that they've gotten so far. The first 20,000 were delivered, and they say they're going to have 100,000. Now, mind you, they also got a deal on it, too, because if they spend $1 billion on 20,000, that's only $50,000 per vehicle, right? And that's cheap for an electric vehicle of that size and stuff. You know, old Jeff would get a deal when he's buying that many, right? And he invested in a company, too. We'll see if they ever do the 100,000. They got 20,000 now, and you will see what's happening. I have yet to even see one. All the delivery vans we got where I live are still the old gasoline delivery vans, right? They're not the fancy new ones. Maybe they only put them in the ultra-rich sections. I don't know. But they say it can travel 150 miles to 200 miles. We all know what that means. A lot less than that in the real world, right? They got 20,000 of them. Of course, they also invested in a company, so it behooves them to buy a product and a company that they invested in, because the rest of the world, people aren't that up with these electric delivery vans, limited range that they have, and we all know the repairs will be a small fortune when they do break down. Those old vans were simple technology with very dependable gasoline or diesel engines in them that can go a really long way. The jury's out on how long these things are going to last. So we'll see what happens in the future, but I don't think there's going to be that many people going out and buying these things. Look at GM and their brake drop delivery vans. They stopped making them now in Canada because they couldn't give them away. Well, California is now the fourth largest economy in the world. It surpassed Japan, and now it's number 4. Well, maybe some of it is due to the inflated value. Everything costs so much in California, right? California's gross domestic product hit $4.1 trillion in 2024. Japan was 4.01. Now it only trails Germany, China, and the United States itself. But that's kind of cheating, because they're included in the United States, so they're never going to catch up to the United States because they're part of the United States. Of course, a lot of it has to do with software and innovation, too. It isn't like we're building a trillion cars or anything there. The world's changing. So everybody's whining about, the United States is falling apart. Hey, California is the 4th largest economy now in the world. The Japanese are having problems. They've got stagflation going on there, but more importantly, their birth rate's dropping. They're not having babies. They've been having some problems for a while. Their labor rates are too high, so the stuff that they make now costs too much, and even the Japanese are firing a lot of their car stuff to other countries. And of course, their governor Gavin Newsom was bragging, look how big we are, and then he was in Senator Trump. Trump's going to ruin it all. He's going to ruin all our exports, la, 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 right? California's got a lot of problems, people, yeah? do have a lot of gross domestic product, right? But they got a lot of problems, and this governor bragging about this stuff isn't going to help any of the problems. The insane taxes that they pay in California, the outrageous prices of real estate. I went there last year. I had a great time on the coast, but boy, when I'm looking at these houses, and like, that house is $5 million. I'm like, in Tennessee, that house might be $500,000, but it's $5 million here, right? But that's pretty big. Fourth largest economy in the world. The Japanese are shrinking and California is growing. Maybe the Japanese will start moving to California. Yeah, they've already taken over Hawaii a long time ago. Maybe they'll move further east and try to take over California. Who knows? So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.